as you said, with traveling comes budgeting as well, which is
Hmm.
like it's actually a big part of the travel. As much as we try to like
Yep.
hide that fact, it is a, and it makes people frustrated to even like, because like it's the main step for you to travel
Hmm.
is to budget that travel. Do you think actually, like, is it possible for people to like travel on a budget, on a low budget, let's say?
Totally.
Yeah,
I like
that's a good one.
I did it like crazy. So my Southeast Asia trip, it all comes down to a few things. So here's some actual I would describe these as like my best travel budgeting tips that are out there. So if anybody's listening, like listen up to these, take your notes, cuz no joke, I would guess this has probably saved me tens of thousands of dollars on trips over the past couple of years just by implementing not one, but all of these little things and tips combined. So the first thing is you need to research the destinations and parts of the world that you love to see that have a cheaper cost of living than where you currently live. The best tip I can give if you really want to explore the world for the first time, head to Southeast Asia. It may be the most affordable destination on the planet in terms of food, in terms of accommodations, in terms of travel costs.
It has
Everything.
a lot of things to do there,
And
by
there's
the way.
there's so much that you can do. There's beaches, there's mountains, there's wildlife, there's great big beautiful cities. Everything that you can think of is in that region. So go explore it, go love it. So that's one tip. Another like couple great places that you can check out. Many different parts of Central America are very affordable. Same with South America. South America is much cheaper and more affordable than places like Canada, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, most of Europe. Eastern Europe is a lot cheaper than Western Europe.
Yeah.
But there's a couple exceptions to that. Portugal is maybe the most affordable destination in Western Europe. It is, and even Spain, many parts of Spain aren't that expensive. It's cheaper than France. So do a lot of research as to what destinations you want to check out, because there are certain places like Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, Southeast Asia, obviously, that your money stretches 4 to 5 times as far as it would in North America. Second, look at the major airports of the world, because that's where you're going to find the cheapest flights in and out of. When I went to Bangkok, flying into Southeast Asia, most people are flabbergasted. I spent $760 round trip.
Interesting. Okay, that's
from
a good
Ottawa,
price.
Ottawa to Bangkok.
Holy smokes, that's a good.
For context, it cost me about $650 on average to do round trip Ottawa to Vancouver.
Yeah, yeah.
It was literally like $100 more expensive for me to go to the other side of the planet than it was for me to travel to the other side of my country. So, and knowing that, I was like, okay, and my money stretches like 4 to 5 times as far there. Those 2 tips alone, quite literally, if I could just end it here, you'll save like $5,000 on your next trip, because that's just knowing where to go and what airports to fly into. The third tip, though, is always research flight prices. So the Bangkok flight that I'm talking about, well, I was looking at like flight prices for like 3 months in and out of Bangkok, because I knew that's where I wanted to start my journey. And it's also, I knew that it was the largest airport in that region, so that flights to there would be cheaper than if I went to Phuket, or if I went to Cebu City in the Philippines, or any place in Vietnam like Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh. So things like that. So just knowing like the major airports. If you're flying to, East Asia, Tokyo would be one of the cheaper airports. But anyways, back to my point. So what's really, really, really key is taking the time, like every day, just spend a few minutes, like looking at flight prices so you know the market. I saw typical flights were around $1,000 to $1,200 round trip through Bangkok. Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's my market. If I see a drop in prices, I'm gonna jump, and I'm just gonna nail it in as soon as they happen. Because I had heard of friends that had spent like $900, $950, even some as low as $850. And the second
$700,
exactly the second I saw $760, this is January of 2018. I purchased my flights for June of 2018, 6 months out. Maybe that's another part of it. I was 6 months out, so I was able to lock in the ticket prices low. Exactly. But because I knew what the market was, I knew what those prices should look like. I was like, here it is. I'm going to nail it in at the best price I've ever seen and lock it in. I'm done. So then I spent like an extra $90. I think it was like $850 total with flight insurance and cancellation insurance and all that stuff, which is still absurd. So those 3 tips right there like can save you a ton. Also on top of that, like if you want to save a lot of money, don't be afraid of hostels. They're the best places to meet people. They're the best places to base yourself for an adventure. And they're so affordable. So in Southeast Asia, in Bali, I would spend on some hostels $4.50 Canadian per night.
Holy smokes. Okay.
And that wasn't like, there were no bed bugs. I had my own locker. It was a beautiful room. I was right on top of the rice fields in Canggu. And then I would rent a scooter to get in and out of town for $6 a day. Or if I wanted to rent it for the week, it would be the equivalent like $4.50 a day.
It's like nothing, bro.
Exactly.
Literally.
Another tip, if you want to save yourself even more money, while you're in a destination, eat local, don't eat Western.
Don't Western. That's what I always hear from other people. Because
Yeah.
like once you start, actually, I don't see a point of eating Western, to be honest with you, with all due respect. Because like you're trying to leave your country to another, you're paying all of that money to like to go and not try the food. I'm sorry, but no.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am
There's
eating
like
local.
there's one little thing with that though, is like before you travel, make sure that you get your travel vaccinations and any medications that you might need. Might sound gross. Make sure you got those traveler's diarrhea pills.
Yeah.
Because eating local does come at a cost a lot of the times. The same sort of like hygiene standards with food preparation that we have in North America isn't always met in other countries. And locals are totally fine with it. Their stomachs are just used to that stuff, but tourists often aren't. And it can cause like serious like disruption, food poisoning in some cases. It's never happened to me severely, but I have met other tourists that have gone to the Dominican or Cuba on even resorts, all inclusives, and they've dealt with that. But it has happened to me like in Peru. It has happened to me in Thailand. So definitely be prepared with that stuff.
I mean, it did happen to me a couple of times when I went back to Iraq, which is where my family is from. I was born there. I didn't live there for a long time. I think I left when I was 40 years old. So I supposedly I'm not used to it. So whenever I go there, or just like it has been a long time. But whenever I go there, I try the food and it's really heavy, man. Like you can't, and then expect to be sick for the next 2 days easily. So, like,
nobody wants that, right?
Bit, exactly. So yeah, that is a good tip that I'm gonna use actually.
Yeah. So definitely like going back to the original question, you can save a lot of money by eating local food. Like I'll use Southeast Asia for an example. Like when I was in Bali, because Bali's very westernized in many parts of it, you can go and get all the most beautiful types of pastas at like Italian kitchens. You can go, obviously in certain parts, there's tons of vegan cafes. It's kind of got like that sort of like LA culture in the jungle, but like I would go out and I would eat Western food, which would be like I was saying, pizzas, pastas, like, you get burgers and different things like that all over the place. And it's really, really good. Yeah. And it is cheaper than what you'll pay here in Canada. I would describe it as you could get a legitimate, like really, really good Western meal for the price of what you'd pay for McDonald's here. So like you could get like a really nice like pasta with like, I'd always get like a mango smoothie and like some sort of like appetizer or side plate for like $12-13. Fantastic value. Or you could go to like a local warung, which is more of like a little kind of, it's like, think of it like Indonesian street food, and they're everywhere. You'd spend like $1.50 and you get like a massive plate of like rice, chicken, beef, or like just other local cuisine, just all tossed in together. And then you get like an iced tea for another like 30 cents. So you just ate for less than $2. And if you're staying at a $4.50 night hostel, which by the way, if you like, another really good tip to save a lot of money is like, if you decide instead of staying in places for like 2, 3, 4 days at a time to extend your stay, you will save a ton of money. So if I decided to stay at that hostel in Bali for $450, I was paying $450 a night, I probably could have negotiated on a monthly rate to stay in that same bed in that same room for like $250 a night on average. But because I'm paying like for 30 days all up front, like I'm locking it in, which they love, and you just pay them cash, and you can do that anywhere. And that's how you can like just go really, really cheap anywhere in the world. So travel's not as expensive as you think, especially when you realize that the most expensive flights in the world are in North America.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
like
We
you can
have.
travel from country to country in Europe really cheap. You can travel from country to country in Latin America and Latam really, really cheap. There's discount carriers in most regions of the world, but not here in Canada. Ryanair is a great airline in Europe that's cheap. Air Asia is really, really good.
Cheap, yeah.
Just be careful with certain things, like know what sort of weight you're allowed in terms of carry-on luggage and all these things, because they will screw you on that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's a scary part as well, like the weight that you should carry with you, but especially like if you're carrying like videography, let's say videography gear and stuff like that,
Yeah, it
that
gets
comes
me.
really tricky.
Yeah.
It's really tricky, especially videography gears. It's like it comes to the decision of like what should I get, what should I bring with me? Okay, camera for sure. Lights. It's like, do I need lights? I don't know. That's the thing. Like tripod, if you're bringing that, if it's a video tripod, that's gonna be way heavier than a photo tripod.
Gimbals,
drones, those get really
GoPros, secondary cameras, lenses, everything.
Yeah, I think we should get like kind of a whole bag for for the video gear, and then just like a small bag, a little bag for the clothes, and that's it. We're done.
Yeah. No, it's always been a tricky thing for me because I have my camera bag, which to the naked eye just looks like a normal backpack. Which luckily for me, because it looks like a backpack.
That's the luckiest thing ever, because like, I heard a lot of bad stories of.
Yeah, so here's a little tip. If you have a camera bag, if you're big into content creation the way that kind of we are and you're going to travel, a camera bag that looks like a backpack oftentimes isn't going to get weighed. You know, because they just assume, oh, like that's a backpack. Everybody has a backpack. Yes. They never weigh more than the weight limit. Fun fact, mine usually does. I've got multiple lenses. I've got my camera. I've got my drone controller. I've got my drone accessories. Sometimes I have a gimbal in there. Sometimes I have some snacks.
You might break your back, but like it's worth it at the end.
Exactly. I've got my GoPro. I've got some housings. Like it's a mess. I've got so much stuff in there, and my laptop, and iPad as well. So it gets and chargers for all that stuff. It gets heavy.
Yeah.
So then, but if it looks like a backpack, usually you're fine because every airport employee just assumes, oh, it's just a normal backpack, even though it's not. So little tip there for everybody.
Exactly.